Hola, mi nombre es Adam Matthews. I'm the Head of International for the Centre for Digital Built Britain. The Centre for Digital Built Britain is the UK's primary BIM programme, digitalisation programme, that's a combination partnership between the University of Cambridge, UK government and also industry. The programme I lead works with governments around the world, across Europe, across Latin America and across Asia to build and harmonise a common understanding about what building information modelling is for the public sector and the opportunity it presents for both the sector and the industry. I'm going to talk about the European BIM Task Group. The European BIM Task Group was started in 2013. It's comprised of public sector officials, policymakers, infrastructure owners, and also building estate owners. The idea originally behind the group was to try to create a common understanding of what BIM is for the public sector. There was lots of confusion about what it is, how it can help, how it can improve the performance of the sector. There was lots of different discussions, and at the same time, there were one or two countries that were starting to create their own national programme for BIM. So it was a good opportunity in 2013 to collect those ideas, to bring together the ideas and experience of some countries that had started so that we could bring together a common understanding, avoiding divergence, avoiding confusion. What we wanted to do was to give industry and the public sector a consistent definition of what BIM is from a methodology perspective, from a standards perspective, and also how to introduce it into public procurement. We wanted to reduce down that confusion, and by doing so, we could then help the industry understand the common aims around building information modelling. By doing that, we can then improve and enhance the engagement across different countries, the sharing of skills and capacity between one country to another, because we have the same language. And that was the key challenge that we faced originally for the group and the opportunity we saw for the group originally. So our vision was, when we started the group in 2016, let's create a construction sector that is digital. Let's create a construction sector that is world-class, that can improve its performance, that can improve how it works, but also improve the outputs, the quality of outputs that it delivers. This was the vision that we had. And we started off by looking at ourselves. We looked at what BIM was described as from a country level. We went to the Nordic countries, the UK, to France and other countries to see what was existing practice at the time and how could we bring together those different ideas, those different terminologies all together into one single definition for public procurers. So the way we did that was to create a handbook. This is the European BIM Task Group Handbook, and it describes for the public sector and for industry, what is BIM? What is it from a national perspective? What is it from a methodology perspective, and how to introduce it at a national level and at a procurement level as well? It also describes what good practice looks like, gives some examples of how it can be introduced, and also it gives some really clear indications of the standards that should be used and referred to in public procurement. We're not a standards body. We don't write standards as the European BIM Task Group. What we do is signpost and give advice to the public sector, primarily to advise them on how to introduce BIM. Now, this has been a really interesting project and a very rewarding project for those involved. It started off in 2013 with about 10 countries that were starting to look at BIM or were implementing a BIM program at a country level. And it's grown over the past 5 years to now include 27 countries. So pretty much the entire European Union are involved in this project. And for the next 3 years, it has a next stage as well. So This has been not only a very good activity for the public sector, what we've also seen is a real benefit to the private sector. And what's that benefit to the private sector been? The private sector have benefited from this programme because there is now increased consistency across one public procurer and one country to another. They're using similar terminology, similar ideas, and they're referring to the same standards as well. So there are now a number of international standards that help to define building information modelling. One of them quite recently released is the ISO 19650. This is a standard which looks at how BIM is described as a process and a methodology. It thinks about BIM from the perspective of the sorts of outcomes you want to achieve and the type of processes that you need to put in place and exchange mechanisms that you apply both within the industry and also with the client of the project as well. So it's a process view of what building information modelling is, and this is very much something that we encourage and use in the handbook itself. In addition, the handbook and the European BIM Task Group were awarded by industry in 2017 a prize for the service to industry that this programme has had. And that wasn't something that was requested, but it was a very good acknowledgement from industry of the change that this is helping to encourage and the awareness that this is helping to drive in the industry as well. And I see a similar path and a similar opportunity here for Latin America, where you now have the Latin American government's BIM-RED. This is a network, a very important network that is starting to shape the idea of what is BIM in Latin America, what is it for the public sector, and how can we consistently introduce this in a common way so that we open up our countries to more trade potentially by having those common standards. How do we create a common process and a common set of procurement conditions as well for public procurers? So, in conclusion, I would say that the LATAM BIM network, much like the European network, has a fantastic journey ahead of itself, and I see a great opportunity for working together collectively. Muchas gracias.